Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. So excited to be here. I'm so thankful for all of you guys that have supported the What Are You Made Of movement, listened, shared with your friends, family, coworkers. All the feedback that I get from you guys is empowering, and I use it to fuel my mission. And I really appreciate all of you. And I have a great guest on today. Today's guest, so excited to have, because I've been watching him for a while. I've known some friends of ours, mutual friends and students of his as well. And just been, since watching from afar, figured I'd reach out to him and bring him on because he fits this show perfectly from what I know of him. And we're going to find out more from Coach Micheal Burt. He's considered America's coach, and a unique blend of a former championship basketball coach combined with a deep methodology of inner engineering people to produce at a higher level in the business world. Coach Burt found his unique voice early in life at the age of 15 by starting his basketball coaching career with a junior pro basketball team. He would go on to become a basketball coach and win his first championship at 18 years old at the same elementary school where he attended as a child. At 18, he would also begin a deep study into the work of Dr. Stephen Covey, author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know you guys have heard of that. He quickly gravitated toward Covey's whole person theory. This would become a staple of Burt's coaching philosophy and one that would separate him from many of his contemporaries and create a niche for Burt even to this day. Sorry. So I have Coach Micheal Burt on here today. I'm gonna save the rest for him because I know he has the ability to articulate what he does and what he's into. Coach, welcome to the show. What are you made of?
Man, you did a great job on that intro. And so one person that was introducing me once said he has a deep mythology. And I'm like, mythology, methodology. Hey, it's all the same, man. Is it real? Is it not real? I think it's real though. So thank you for having me. I'm excited. I believe people get behind movements. And I tell people I don't write a book today unless I think it starts a movement or solves a major problem for the world. You know, that's different than when I started writing at 25 just because I had an idea. I think people want to be part of something, you know, and join something that is dynamic, that involve people of advancement, people of interest. So thank you for having me, man. What are you made of?
Yeah, what are you made of? Yeah, everybody knows what I'm made of because I tell my story over and over again. I always pretend that anything I do, people haven't seen it yet. Yeah. And so, you know, a lot of people back off of social media or back off of telling their story because they think they've told it once, everybody knows about it. But in reality, they haven't. So, but everybody's got a story. Coach, what's your story?
My story started in a small town in Tennessee, raised by a single mother who had me when she was 16, instilled a very high amount of prey drive in my life, which is instinctual ability to get up and go get something. You know, my mom was tough. She didn't let me miss a day of school growing up. I played sports, and my coaches were constantly telling me at a very early age, son, one of these days you're going to be a great coach. And I didn't know that, right? Like they saw it in me. And I went back and asked, like, how did you see that in me at 6 years old or 15 years old? And you know, they told me you were very inquisitive. You were constantly directing and asking questions. You were already coaching people. So I started coaching very early in life, first in athletics, and then ultimately at 31 retired from being a championship coach and kind of building a powerhouse in Tennessee to really do what I do today, which is coach business people, coach entrepreneurs, coach small business owners. And I had that seed planted in me by my mentor, which was Covey at 18 years old when I read that 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That would be very instrumental in even what I do today at 43 years old, understanding the whole person theory and how to tap into the potential of a person is a primary skill that I developed really through that first professional decade of my life.
Yeah, I love it. You know, the reason that I felt you fit this so much is I run a mortgage company, division for Nations Lending, and we have 30 some employees now. And every single day we're in the mortgage business. We do it as our vehicle to pay our bills, to help help families achieve home ownership. But every day that I wake up, I feel that I'm really in the people building business. Yeah. I talk about that all the time, and I'm building them in communication, leadership, work ethic, goal setting. I mean, you name it. And it's a constant theme of mine every single day. So that's why I've taken off with the What Are You Made Of movement to go out and start building people in the world as well, because I didn't want to be just limited to our group, but have something so big and powerful. So I love what you're doing there. I definitely vibe with that. And my question to you, let's get back to real quick. I want to talk about some sports for a second. So did you just coach high school and then college too, or just high school, or where?
No, I just coached high school. I had an opportunity to go to college multiple times, but I really had my heart set on building a championship program where I was at because there had never been a championship at that school. So it took me about 10 years. I had a chance to go to the University of Memphis halfway through that. And I said, man, I want to see this through to its conclusion. I'm not leaving here till I build a championship. I put all this time and effort into it. Now, by the time I was ready to go to college and coach, I was already earning income, significant income from speaking. So then it's like, well, do I go backward and, go back to making $25,000 a year and go back to sweeping the floor and mopping the floor? And, so then it was like, okay, now it's time for me to I'm going to skip that stage of my life and I'm going to go into the coaching people business. And it really happened unintentionally. I didn't plan to coach adults. My trajectory was to coach high school, win a championship, go to college, ultimately be a major Division I college basketball coach. That's the path I was on. And then when I started speaking and writing books, I'm like, man, I like this. I can control my time. I can control who I work with. I had fun. It was challenging to me. So ultimately I would build a, multi-million-dollar coaching, speaking and coaching business. We speak, coach, train, lead, online academies, corporate coaching. That's really what I do today. Every day is coach people.
And when you read Stephen Covey's book and you started being mentored by him from afar, because we talked about that before we took off on the call today, about being mentored from afar. Some people don't even know they're mentoring you.
That's right.
How long did you do that before you finally met him? Or
7 years.
7 years?
Yeah, 7 years. And there was a term he used called emotional identification. I emotionally identified with Covey because he had this deep methodology. When you're a coach like me, it's not all motivation and pop-up psychology and feel good. There's really got to be a methodology on how I move a mortgage originator from 60 million to 160 million. It's really how I move a real estate agent from 45 deals a year to now they're doing 45 deals a month. There's a real methodology behind it. And that's kind of why I resonated with Covey so much, is he was a deep thinker. He had structures and processes on inner engineering people and tapping into the whole person. So I studied Covey for 7 years. I only met him one time in Boston, Massachusetts. I figured out who his personal assistant was. Actually, my mother figured out who his personal assistant was and basically went to her and said, man, my son loves Dr. Covey. He would do anything in the world to meet him for just a minute. And they kept saying, well, no, it's $1,000 to have lunch with him at the event, or you know what I'm saying? He doesn't have time. And my mom was relentless, man. She just kept going until she got me a meeting with him. And he pulled me aside. They said, be in this one spot, right? He's going to come out of lunch. He's going to go back into the thing, be in this one spot. We're going to pull you two into a room and you get to spend 10 minutes with Dr. Covey. And I spent 10 minutes with him and I was so in awe because he had impacted my life. Like, what do you say to a person that's had that much impact on your life? It's like, thank you.
Right.
And just keep saying, thank you. Thank you. But he signed my book and we talked for a minute. And if you read my book, Person of Interest, there's a picture of he and I when I met him in that book. and it was very instrumental. Now, you and I talked about this. Today, a book can be your coach. Watching people on YouTube can be your coach. Watching people on Instagram can be your coach. Like, you can be inspired. What you're really doing is lining up with what they believe. They have a set of beliefs. You go, oh, I believe the same things they do. There's an affinity there. So I've been coaching people for years that I don't even know I've been coaching.
Right. Now, do you have to believe the same thing, or is there a time where there could be a paradigm shift and you find someone that's a mentor that believes something different and you didn't think of it that way?
Yeah.
And then what's it take to have that happen? And how often do you think that happens in your experience?
Well, I think like this: when we know better, we do better, but we can't do better if we don't know better. Right. Maya Angelou said that. And I think in my life, like, I'm rereading a book called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it was a book I bought many years ago by Marshall Goldsmith. He coached very successful people who couldn't get to the next level because of their own challenges that they couldn't even see. And I told the president of my company, I'm rereading this book because I am now at 43 having awareness that the person who could be keeping us from going to another level could be me, could be things I do, could be mindsets I have. So I'm kind of rereading that book going, okay, I need to do this better. I need to do this. I need to be more open to this idea. I need to get more involved here. So I think it's one of those things that, like, the awareness in your life has to go up and you see something from a person. Like, the lifestyle I have today, I would have never thought, whether it be with a jet or multiple homes or whatever. Okay. I didn't even know how nice things were. I didn't know things were that nice until I experienced them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like trying to explain to another person what it's like to do that is hard. It's like they got to experience it. They got to be exposed to it. So I think sometimes you look at a person and you go, man, that dude can do it. I can do it. Right. And that dude's exposed me to a new way of thinking.
Yep. Yep. I love it, man. What do you think, not having a father, did you ever meet your father?
I did. Yep. I actually, my mother and father were married uh, right when they had me. My dad was 18. My mom was 16. And the best way I know how to say it is my dad just didn't know how to be a dad.
Hmm.
You know, he was still goofing off in life. He was still not serious about life. So he really didn't pay a lot of attention to me growing up. I don't remember him ever going to a sporting event. I don't remember him, you know, I tell people I don't remember him ever hugging me, telling me he loved me. But my mom kind of compensated. My mom went to every sporting event. My mom worked 2 jobs to make sure we had it. My mom was there. Even when I was coaching in my 20s, my mom was at every game. So I didn't, it's not that I missed my dad during that period because I had everything I needed. It's just, I think that's an important part of life. Why would I come back and write the book Person of Interest, which is about becoming known, maybe subconsciously, because I really didn't know my own dad, or my own dad didn't know me, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah.
so, and I'm a big believer that we shouldn't be mad at those people. We should go back and thank them sometimes, because I probably wouldn't be the man I am today, the Coach Burt I am today, if I had everything I needed. It was right, like it was
Yep.
perfect. So kind of built this person I am today.
Yeah. I talk about this too with my father. You know, long story short, at 11 years old, basically, I felt like I was giving up on.
Yep.
And, but I did have a conversation with my father years later, which I don't get to talk to him now, not by my choice, but years later, I had a conversation with him. He said, I felt like I made the best decision at the time for you, for your future.
Yep.
And then looking back on it, I had a stepfather that came into my life when I was 11. And he was everything I needed to be when I was 11 years old as a father. I mean, he was hard on my ass. Like, he would
Mhm.
drive me and I would get mad and hate it. But looking back on it, man, it's like perfect timing. It was, and he must have saw that he couldn't do that at that time for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And, you know, like you said, I look back at it. I did post the other day something about, hey, Dad, thank you. Because the same exact message.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something at 43. I'm 43. I just turned 43 in February. And I did have, over this last year and a half or so, I had an awakening. And you had mentioned something about this. And I don't know if it's just that age that we're at right now.
Yeah.
But I had an awakening that, hey, man, you don't know everything, mister.
Yeah.
Take a step back. Your ego's getting in the way a little bit.
Yep.
And, you know, why don't you go back to school, so to speak?
Yeah.
And, you know, even the fact that you're a coach, I've been coaching people, not calling myself a coach for years,
Right.
building our employees, building a company. But I did humble myself about a year and a half ago and said, you know what? Hey, get your butt together, go back, study. And it's changed my life.
Yep.
And did you experience that same thing right around
Yeah.
the same age?
I think, you know, there's a trap. The way that book, What Got You Here, Won't Get You There, it starts off by the problem with success. And the problem with success is you begin buying your own hype. And I see this as a coach. An obscure group of people come into the coaching program. I build them up. I make them believe they can do anything. I help them kind of come out of their shell. And then they go to an extreme and they start buying their own hype. And what they really start doing, this is unfortunate, they really start believing that they're better than what they really are. And then they're not coachable. Then, well, we don't need a coach. You know, we're already really, really, really good. And it's all relative, man. You know, I could show you, you know, take the mortgage business. I coach people doing 100 million, but there's somebody out there doing 245 million. And so it's all relative. If I make $1 million a year personally, in comparison to a lot of people, maybe that's a lot of money, but it's nothing compared to the person making 10 million or 20 million or 100 million. So as a coach, I've had to tell myself, look, I'm telling them they need to be coachable. I'm telling myself I need to be coachable. And it really started with kind of a heated discussion between me and my new president. I brought in a new president of my company. And, you know, she said, like, look, if you're going to get to another level, you got to do some different things. Like, you got to be open to doing something different. And, you know, you got to be open to this idea, and you got to be open to hiring these people, and you got to be open to looking at things in a different light. And we kind of went back and forth, and I went home and reflected on it, because I was telling her, here's what you got to get better at. Like, you got to get better at controlling your emotions, and you got to get better at how you present ideas to me, and you got to get better at this. And then I went home, and typically on the weekends when I can reflect, I picked up that book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I'm like, dang, man, I need to get better. I'm the one that needs to get better. And I told her, and I'm like, look, I just want you to know that I'm working on me too. You know, I have my new book is called Single Digit Millionaire. And people ask me, well, you know, why would you only want to be a single digit millionaire? That means your net worth is between $1 and $10 million. Okay. And I think mine's like 6 million or something like that. But here's the point. I don't know how to get to double digits because I ain't got there yet. So I'm not qualified to write a book on double digit millionaire, right? But the first step is, how do I get to be worth between $1 and $10 million? Then once I get there, then I reach up to people who are at a higher status than me. And I say, man, how did you do it? How did you go from 10 million to 20 million? How'd you go from 10 to 30? Because Cardone and I have had this conversation multiple times. You know, his coaching business was stuck at $3 to $4 million for 30 years. That didn't mean he wasn't making money on real estate, but his actual coaching business was stuck at the same revenue point for years. Even at 43, when he was my age, he had 3 employees. You know, so he's told me multiple times, he's like, man, you're way more advanced than I was at 42 years old, just in your thinking and how many people you have. But the reality is, I said, what's the difference between a millionaire and a multimillionaire? And he said, well, are we talking between 1 and 2 million? Or are we talking between 1 and 20 million? Because there's a significant difference between 1 and 20. There's not that much a difference between 1 and 5 or 1 and 3, right? So I think you need to be humble and coachable. And no matter what level of success you're at, just know there's people out there doing it at a bigger level than you, and be open to that. Like, be open to that. You could be the problem.
What was his answer to that? When you asked him a difference between a single digit and a multi-digit,
he just said there's a significant, we're talking significant difference between 1 and 20.
Yeah.
There's not that much a difference between 1 and 5, 1 and 6. There is a big difference between 1 and 10, you know, but there's a big difference between 10 and 50.
Right.
Right. And so I think like that gives me, you know, that gives me hope to see how he's done it. But in the book, I talk about him, Ed Mylett, Bradley. These are people that I know. And, you know, I talk about what their models that they use to grow their deal. Like, you think about people in the real estate space. Like, how many deals can you really do by yourself if you don't have a team of people?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe you can get to 45. Maybe you can get to 45, but you're never going to get to 145.
Right.
You're right. You're never going, right? And you get to 145, you're never going to get to 500. Like, so I think we constantly have to be asking ourselves, can our vehicle get us there? Is our own think limiting ourselves from getting to the next level? Like, right? Like, I can will, like, you can will yourself to a certain level. Okay. I can will my coaching company to 4 to 6 million a year, but I can't will it to 10 million a year or 20 million a year. There needs to be more scale. There needs to be more structures in place. There needs to be more salespeople. There needs to be more e-commerce. So those are structural things, right?
Yep.
And I think a lot of people, I was coached by a guy named Dan Sullivan who had the concept of 10X. He got it 10 times. And he taught us everything was structural. Like, you can't grow 10X if you don't have the structures in place. Where Cardone came along and said, well, you just 10 times your effort, and you 10 times your money, and you 10 times your attitude, and you 10 times your think. So they're both valid concepts, and you need both of them if you're ever going to do something bigger.
Yeah, I agree. I hear LOs, loan officers, and realtors talking about all the time when they see someone that has big numbers posted under their name. Oh, that's not just them. They got a team. Like, it's a bad thing. It's so funny. I just crack up because I'm like, guys, are you kidding me? This is where you want to go. That's where you want to aim if you're in this business. Yeah. You want people.
Yeah, you want to be a business person. You know, you want to be a businessman that owns a real estate company or a businesswoman. You're not just a realtor. You're not just a LO. You need to start thinking in terms of, I have a special skill set. I'm a specialist, not a generalist. I own a company. I've got people. You know, like I said, there's only so big you can get if your think is like that. You know, and too many people in that space, that's a real challenge with their thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I had one guy tell me that, man, well, the loans won't go in my name and I won't be up on the leaderboard. And I'm like, is that really what you care about? Because we got to talk about your goals. We really have to set up, you know, let's set everything aside and talk here, because if you're just worried about the leaderboard, we got an issue. That's the issue. So, yeah, that's great. Now, how did you get to having a lodge and having spaces for events and all that? I'm intrigued by that.
You know, I was always inspired when I was in inspirational places, at the ocean, on cruise ships, in the mountains. And growing up in Tennessee, we always went to the mountains, you know, to vacation. And then we always went to the ocean. Like, Tennessee people go to Florida, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you where you went to the ocean.
Yeah, so we always grew up going to Florida and to the mountains. Well, I noticed that I really was inspired when I was in these places. My mind was creative. You know, I had ideas. It's where I would go write my books, you know. And so I started saying, what if I could own these locations and coach at these locations, right? And use these locations, because I have a deep affinity for real estate, just good real estate. I just, when I'm in good, cool real estate places, like I have a condo in Nashville on the 38th floor, and it's just cool, man. It's just cool. It's just a cool building. It's a cool place. When I'm down there, I got a good vibe. I'm happy.
I love it.
And so we found this lodge literally 20 minutes from where I live. And it was an individual lived there. I walked in it and immediately saw the value of it, immediately saw the possibility of it. And what I saw in my mind was, how do I take this liability and turn it into an asset? And the way I'm going to turn anything into, then this is a mindset I have about everything. How am I going to take a bus and turn into an asset? How am I going to take a jet and turn into an asset? How am I going to take my personal house and turn into an asset? I'm going to turn every liability I have into an asset. And it could just buy me time. It could buy me exposure. It could buy me structure. And you hear me talk about in my new book, Single Digit Millionaire, structures of exchange. And a structure of exchange is, let's say you're in my coaching program. The value of me to you exponentially goes up by each individual participant added to my network. Because now you can exchange with them. You can sell them a loan. You can help them go to higher frequency. So then I started figuring out, I'm going to take money from my coaching business, my profits, and I'm going to purchase these unique destinations around the world that I own, that I'm renting when I'm not using them. And I can stay there anytime I want to. And where the real money is made is I can bring people together to these places to host coaching events. And it has never led me wrong to get people to my lodge. When I get people to that lodge, I don't care if it's a free event, paid event, people get there, they get excited, they want to go on retreats, they want to, right? Like the biggest coaching contracts I've ever signed, most of them came, I got people to the lodge, they got excited, they're like, we want to do more with you, right? So you're never going to go wrong. And I think about who I'm having this weekend at the lodge. I mean, Tim Story, Sharon Lecter, Johnny Wimbrey, Amanda Williams, Greg Kimball, like these are big time people. And they're going to be coming to my lodge. Now, when you walk in that lodge, it does nothing but help me raise my status because it's beautiful. Like, I mean, it is like overwhelming. When you first walk in it, it's overwhelming how big it is and how beautiful it is. So we have 4 people come yesterday that are doing weddings at the lodge. My wife was showing them around. So we're going to make money off the weddings. We're going to make money off VRBO. We're going to make money off company events. We're going to make money off the training. So that lodge could be a significant revenue generator for me in the long run.
Yeah, I met Tim in Vegas. He did a great job on the stage, as he always does, and I met him and I invited him on the show, so he's going to be coming up on the show as well. But since you mentioned that, what's going on this weekend? And there's another date as well. Talk about that.
Well, Tim Story and I met at the first 10X when I was a participant, and then at the second 10X, we both spoke at that, and we had a speaker dinner the night, that week, where I got to meet all those speakers. And it's where I first met Ed Milet, and it was me and Milet and Grant Cardone and Bradley and Tim Story and, all these people that were speaking at the events. First time I'd ever met many of those people. And I was kind of the underdog, right? Like nobody knew who I was. Mm-hmm. But I met Story and we had a lot in common. And afterward, we just started to kind of find ourselves doing things together. So we did a retreat in Vero Beach, Florida last year together called the Bigger Future Retreat. Then there's been some speaking engagements we've done together. And then, he's opened doors for me. I've opened doors for him. And he had this saying he kept using, when life knocks the shout out of you. Because at some point, life is going to knock the shout out of you. And I said, man, let's take that concept and let's do a little tour around the country. And let's be me and you. And we're going to go to Nashville and New York City and Chicago and Dallas and Miami and LA and right. And so okay, now who can we add? We need a strong woman. Well, the day I was in California visiting his church, Sharon Lecter was there. Sharon Lecter wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Kiyosaki. She rewrote Outwitting the Devil. She wrote Think and Grow Rich for Women, or repurposed it. So I'm like, why don't we bring Lecter with us, right? Then it's like, well, who else can we bring with us? We all work with Hank Norman and Steve Carlson in New York City of Two Market Media. And so those guys introduced us to other people, Johnny Wimbrey, certain people. And now it's a little tour. It's like a little concert day, right?
Right.
It's Lecter, me, Tim Story, Johnny Wimbrey, Amanda Williams, Greg Kimball, and they're all speaking on one day around one concept. What do you do when life knocks the shout out of you? And
I love that Amanda's a part of it, man. That just I was at 10X stages with her, as I mentioned earlier, and anybody that's around me that has success, man, it just gives me I feel like they're like my brother or sister, man. It's just a great feeling. And I'm so glad that you have her a part of that. But how many events are you having?
Basically, we're going to start with 2, Nashville and Dallas. Those are the 2 that are on the docket now. Then we're going to come back and do New York City, LA, probably Phoenix, Miami. We're going to just go to different cities and, just take this. It's just the first time we've done it, and so we're just learning how to do it. How do we sell tickets? How do we get people in a room? How do we come up with this concept? But any person who's ever been knocked down, looked over, shut down, broken up with, like my message is going to be, it's going to be a fight, but we're going to win. And I'm going to talk about, even going back to my early days as a basketball coach, all the things that happened to me, the personal attacks I went through. The whole time I was a high school basketball coach, I had to have an attorney because of how mean people are to you. Like, they accused me of stealing all the money from the booster club. And then somebody turned me over to the Department of Children's Services and said I was too hard on the kids. And then, like every week it was something so I had to have an attorney protect me because people would just make up things. And it's crazy how vindictive people would be. But that taught me to get tough. It taught me how to get in there every day and fight through it. And then at 25, I had depression. And then at 31, I started my company. I have a big customer that canceled on me 3 months into it. And then at 42, I went through 41. I went through real bad business partnership with, people with this betrayal and greed and just crazy stuff, man, stuff I never experienced before. So life has knocked the shit out of me a few times, but I have built this muscle, and the muscle is, it's going to be a fight every day, but we're going to find a way to win. And if you can come into every day with that mindset, so that's what my talk is going to be about on Saturday. What did I learn?
Let's go, man. Let's go.
Every step of the way.
I love it. Hey, and the thing is that if you look back on every single thing that happened to you, you learn something from every single one, and you've come out now prepared for this next thing, whatever the next thing is, right? That's what it's all about, man. I'm going to be at one of those events, if not more. And what is there a link or something that the listeners can go to? Go to
coachburt.com/shout.
All right,
coachburt.com/shout. Yep, get your tickets. And I agree, it's going to be an incredible day, man. I like, my mom's coming, my aunts are coming, my brother's coming. I'm like, look, everybody needs to be at this. There's no excuse. This is not just a business event. This is a personal development day that will change. You're going to have tools when you leave there that you didn't have. Okay.
Yep. And then the lodge. When's the next event at the lodge? Because I got to pop in there too.
Yeah, I'm doing the next one that you would really enjoy is the $1 Million Coaching Summit, and that one is May 7th through the 9th, 2020. Amanda already went through that once, and that is my version of speaking, coaching, training, leading, everything I've learned the last 18 years. To really build this business that I've built. So that's a 2.5-day deal with me at the lodge. That's an incredible experience.
Yeah. So let me state my intentions clearly for everyone that is listening and for Coach. What I do when I get onto something, I go after it like a madman. I'm obsessed with it to the point where I have to question myself if I'm too obsessed with it. But it's just the only way I know how to do it. And every morning I wake up, I go after that same thing. Okay. And I always try to find something that aligns with my main thing. So the mortgage thing, this aligns perfectly with the mortgage thing. Our mortgage business has grown from the What Are You Made Of movement. Yep. But anyway, when I find someone that I like and connect with, that their content's great, I want to go and see what I can do to help them. Yep. And I want everyone to listen to this because this has helped me big time. Don't go and see what they can do for you. Their content they're putting out is good enough for you to start with. Go find out what you can do for them and go see what you can do to support them. And then watch the magic that happens after that. And it has not ever let me down. That philosophy, I've practiced it, and I'm doing it genuinely from my heart. And if I do pay for something from someone, I try to get the content out of it and use it and implement it in my life. But I always have this thing in my mind that anybody I pay money to, I want to make them look as good as possible. I want to make them successful on my part, anything I can do to help them lift them up because it validates my purchase, right? But it also helps people. And that is a powerful thing, guys. Too many people buy stuff or invest in something and then they complain about it. And they don't do their part. Yeah. And you buy something, it's a two-way street. So that's a big thing. So my intention is to support anything I can do to help you, Coach. I appreciate you coming on here and sharing with my listeners. And by the way, I always talk about this being a little bit selfish because now I have a library of content that I got to ask questions. I have so many questions, but we're short on time here. And I look forward to doing this again with you or absolutely meeting you in person. Is there anything that you want to leave us with, the listeners, or anything, any content as far as how they can connect with you besides?
Well, I think what you just said is a great point. You're gonna come across people in life that you find interesting. They help you, right, perform at a higher frequency. If you take that mindset that it's the learner's job to extract the value from the teaching. Okay. When I spoke at 10X, we had 300 people buy my coaching program. Probably less than 20 to 30% actually ever opened it, ever did anything with it, ever showed up. Now it'd be very easy for them to come back 2 years later and say, I didn't get my money's worth. I want my money back. But your point is a great point for the listener to take away, is that when I pay money for something, it's up to me to get the value out of it. It's up to me when I went to church yesterday to extract the value from what the preacher was preaching, not go and say, well, I didn't like his sermon, or I didn't like his notes, or I didn't like his tone. Like if you always, like the learner, when the learner makes up their mind that they're going to extract the value, it's available to you. Okay. So, and I like your strategy of just helping people. Just don't be a taker. Yep. If you want to build deep networks, get in there and help people advance, man. Get lost in other people's dreams. And if you do that, then you're going to advance in your life.
And a common theme that I've seen with the guests on this show is that everybody's got a journey to success, and not everybody sees the journey. I did a blog on the journey's invisible. And I'm glad that you shared that last part where you're talking about at different stages, you had different hurdles. Right. And that's what I try to get out of people, because I want people to hear about this that are going through their own journeys to success. Absolutely. Right now, and not stop. If you hit a speed bump, roadblock, don't stop. Just bust through it. Figure out a way, Good. And one of the things too, but before we go, the lodge situation, how do you think this sounds? I'm thinking of as you did this, you committed to buying the lodge. I did. Right. Guess what happens after commitment?
Yep.
You got to get creative. Right?
That's right.
So the success that you've had with the lodge, you may not have had if you didn't have that commitment and the investment that you put into it, and that feeling every day when you got to wake up and like, oh man, did we do the right thing? We got to figure something out. Am I right
every
or not?
Day. Yeah. Every day, man. That's the biggest activator of prey drive for me is fear of loss. Like I've spent 43 years of my life working hard, man, busting my butt. And I wake up in the morning and go get it. Like I don't, I'm not going to sit there and be satisfied. Success doesn't care what you did yesterday. It just don't care, right? You got to get up, and that's a muscle you got to teach people, every day, that I show up every day. So like a lot of people come and want to travel with me, and, say, can I fly on the jet and kind of go do this? And then I say, well, we're leaving at 4 a.m. And they're like, well, I didn't know, I didn't know it was going to be this hard. Like, we're going to go to 2 or 3 different cities. We're going to be in and out. We're going to touch 1,000 people today. And they're like, man, they all come back and say the same thing. They're like, Coach, you work hard. Like, I didn't know, like, it's easy to see it on Instagram. Like, I didn't know you worked this hard. Like this ain't easy, man. Running a coaching business, from coaching people, running a mortgage business, it's not easy. This is a very heavy service oriented business where you're taking on, in my case, up to 1,000+ people a month, are dependent on me to show up every day and provide something for them. So it looks good. It looks sexy, but just like anything, coaching the basketball games was the easy part. All the behind the scenes, the practice and the buses and the late nights and the 6:30 in the morning till midnight. Like, the people don't see that part. They just see you show up and make it look easy. The great show up and make it look easy. It's because they've done it for thousands of hours, man.
Right. Well, Coach, thank you so much for coming on the What Are You Made Of podcast. I appreciate you. And you don't know it yet, but you got a guy in your court now that's going to help you do something. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to help you with something, man. And I'm just so thankful to have you on the show, man, to get to contribute. And guys, you've been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast. Coach Burt on Instagram, by the way. Go check him out on Instagram. It's Micheal with EAL, Micheal Burt, Micheal Burt. Check him out. Great Instagram page. Go engage with him. Look at his content. Use it for your business, your life. I promise you won't be sorry. And appreciate you coming on, Coach. You guys listen to the What Are You Made Of podcast. Please go subscribe to iTunes, Spotify. Tell your friends and family about the movement. We want to keep the Waymo movement going. And if you haven't been a part of the Waymo crew yet, the Waymo crew is all about you, business owners, salespeople, to help you grow your business, help you get intentional, help you get clear on what you want in life in your fantasy world. We want to achieve fantasies for people in their dreams. So get up with me. Get up with your boy, C-Roc. Thanks for joining us. Until next time. Thank you for being a part of the What Are You Made Of podcast. So that you don't miss future episodes, please rate and subscribe to the What Are You Made Of podcast on your favorite listening or viewing apps, and follow me on your favorite social media platforms. I would love to hear your stories and past experiences and engage with you further.